What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage and welcome back to the greatest tuning show on all known media ever. Sean, thanks to everybody for stopping by the garage. Big shout out to Hillary and D&Z. Their son is very sick with the flu. Hope he gets to feeling better soon. Sending all of our best. Everybody is already, but wanted to reiterate. Sorry to hear the little guy's in the hospital. It sucks. Got a lot of people back. S10, DMC, John, of course, Steve Van Hook, Casey, who's under the weather also, Zero, Nick, good to see you, brother. What is going on, Tom? Matt, hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. What is... tell you, I'm afraid I might be a little bit under the weather myself. I did not hear about the guy in South Korea. Awesome, Rudy. Good to hear, man. Thanks for stopping by the live show tonight. Brandon, your merch pack went out today, man. Sorry it took so long. I ran out of merch. Ran out of some decals. Had some showed up. So if anybody is waiting on shipments, they're going out today or tomorrow. So just heads up. Getting caught up. That being said, let's go ahead. We will read off the new patrons. I want to thank all of the new patrons for their support in the last week. Kirby, Chevy for Life, of course, that's Tanner. Jorge's Vlog, thank you, Jorge, for signing up if you're in here. He's not in here yet. He might stop by later. Go check out Jorge's Vlogs YouTube channel if you haven't already. Some good stuff on there, except he got his car whacked by a motorcycle at the track. Carl Honeycutt, Kenneth Reed, Carlos Martinez, Tyler Glow, Michael Mosier, Ryan Lewis, who hopefully Ryan will be able to stop by today, and Ben Allen. Thank you, everybody, for the support. I know, Matt. I know. It actually, I sent out over 150 packages, envelopes, things like that, Monday or Tuesday. I've got another 20 or so that I packaged up and labeled to go out today. I'm just trying to get caught up. So lots and lots. In fact, I had probably almost $200 worth of postage that I had to buy this week. What's going on, Zeth? Second best night of the week, Rick. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? J. Mike Hampton, how do I subscribe to the Patreon? Easiest way to get there is goatroadgarage.com. There's a link at the top to the Patreon. 3 tiers, $5. Basically just get you access to the patron stuff. In fact, we got a drawing that we're drawing for tomorrow for patrons for a book on LS Motors. $15 gets you the tuning support, and then the big time $75 gets you the one-on-one video conference every month to go over tuning. Charles says, my 2018 shifts like it's junk. 2018, is that got the 10-speed in it? What does junk mean? Craig Peterson says, Kyle, I was trying to sorting out the torque tuning issues on my SS. It turned out to be transmission shutter slowly creeping in. Sorry to hear that, Craig. Transmission shutter is no fun. Do you think it's coming from the transmission or the torque converter? Oh, good. You said you got it running awesome now. So you did figure it out. Awesome. Danny Z. Oh, you're welcome, Wallace. Danny Z says, got a question about startup airflow. How do you dial that in to make sure it's good for a Gen 4? Danny Z, if you have your wideband, turn the car to on without starting the motor. Give your wideband time to warm up. Make sure it's reading in. That way you can capture the first couple seconds of crank and startup airflow to see what it's doing. Obviously, you want it to be super rich during crank, but it should only be super rich for a couple of seconds. Basically dumps a bunch of fuel. Once it fires, it then starts to ramp. There is a ramp time that it will ramp out towards normal operation based on things like coolant temp. That's where we all have a lot of issues with cold start versus hot start. What it likes on cold start, it doesn't like on hot start, things like that. So you kind of got to sort it out. Hey, Gio, I got your shirt ordered. It should be in next week, so keep your eyes peeled. Once I get it, I will get it sent out to you. Hey, Brandon, thank you for saying it is the best night. Matt Land is working on turbocharging my Grizzly 700 because apparently he does not value live. Hey, Nick Rydell, welcome back. Nick says you're going to mess around and end up being a full-time YouTuber before long. You know, we're a long ways away from that, man. Long ways away from that. BSFC9 says, I know an internet connection is required to license GM Gen 5 ECU. Do you know if an internet connection is required just to review? No. You need to have an internet connection whenever... in fact, I don't even know that you need the internet connection. If you sync the interface, once it syncs, it should grab the credits, but that may have been the way that the old ones used to work. The new ones, you may have to have an internet connection whenever you do the credit apply. New Blood says you should get a Cobb AP and do tube videos about it. I have worked with the access ports back in the day, New Blood. I cut my teeth on Subarus. Might have to do that. John, if you haven't added your name into the drawing hat yet, you still have time over on the Patreon until I do the drawing. Kenneth Miller says, what's the process for the $500 email tune? Kenneth, basically the process is you give me a big spiel about what your loadout is, what kind of mods, what kind of stuff that you've got going on, what we're trying to accomplish, basically, and then I will look at a initial tune file that you have, even if it's a stock tune and you have bolt-ons, something like that, and then I will have you pull some logs. We will go through the process of doing MAF tuning first, followed by volumetric efficiency tuning, because we want to do a full fuel tune setup. After we get those two dialed in, we will then move on to spark tuning and transmission tuning after that. You get support, I believe, don't quote me, but it is on the website. Get support for a year, free retunes for a year, stuff like that. And I'm talking about legitimate free retunes. It is a custom process, so you have to have a properly installed wideband airflow sensor, because I don't tune without widebands. Yeah, Rudy, $70, it gets you an hour, but you can split it up into 15-minute sessions, 30-minute sessions, or a whole hour session, and basically we will look directly at your tune file, talk about what you want to do, and I will give you guidance. A lot of times it may be a shorter session because I'll give you guidance, have you go out and do some things, then come back and set up another session so we can review. William, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you viewing the vids. Throw a thumbs up if you enjoy them. That drives more people to them. Gets more people out there. Welcome, Denali Guy. Good to see you. Hey, Jerry. Zero Factor X says, any cold start tips for Gen 3 P59? Add more fuel. Does it add fuel until it smells like fuel? Then you know you have at least enough fuel for cold start. Then you can start to dial it back, Zero. John says, my buddy has a Gen 3 truck with a 6-liter, and I'm assuming a 4L60, most likely. He wants me to make a shift better. He says, I went on the highway. It jumps between gears too often, so you want to look at the shift timing versus speed. Most likely on that, John, there should be tables specifically to the speed. It won't be upshift pressures. Upshift pressures will be how fast it shifts, how hard it shifts. You want to look at the shift speeds. Danny Z says, mine goes back to warm-up on crank. Warm-up is in the fuel strategy. Yeah, there's a good chance 4L60 could be on the way out. But if it's shifting a lot, depending on the mods, it could be a little bit out of whack. Casey finally got the motor back. Be putting it in this Saturday. Good luck, brother. Keep us posted. Rick Johnson says, how many feet in elevation change significant enough to affect a speed density tune? Well, Rick, I mean, it's dependent on the platform. A lot of that stuff will do some volume of self-correction on density change. But, hold on, you guys are out scrolling me here. It can be subjective. I mean, Rick, you just need to pay attention and see if it starts drifting out, and it'll give you an idea of whether or not. I mean, if you got closed loop running on it again, Rick, just look at your long-term fuel trims. That'll give you a good idea whether or not density's starting to throw your tune off. Steve Van Hook, that is not necessarily true. I've not started the raffle yet, guys. I'll let you know. You guys are killing me. Here. Try it now. Yeah, Blue Cat's trans tool is real good. So if you're looking at making some additions or making some adjustments. Beastie Boy, you're still having issues with the wideband, my brother. Did you reach out to them? Because you got to have something that's not working right. Jeremy says, what's going on, everybody? I've been chasing my tail tuning my Gen 562 built motor big cam and a Whipple. A lot of horsepower there. I lowered the torque tables and it idles well, but then mid throttle I'm too low for torque. Yeah. So on a Gen 562, if you're lowering your torque tables to get it to idle well, you're going to have some issues. Now, Jeremy, welcome to the world of Gen 5 tuning, where idle adjustments, especially on a big cam motor and a positive displacement supercharger like a Whipple, will cause you all kinds of weird issues down low because you are, even if you have the bypass open on the Whipple, you're still feeding it more air than it's used to at idle. And so because of that, it is going to try and pull a ton of timing to get your idle to dial in. But in order to fix that, you need to go into the idle areas of your virtual torque tables and lower the torque just in the idle areas. Focus on, there should be like 2 or 3 cells that you'll eventually get into, and that's what you're going to want to target. Hold on a second, I'm going back. Oh, Danny, yours is going back to warm up on crank because you need to hook your wideband up to a power source that is on during crank. That way it stays on and stays warmed up through the crank. So check for a power source that stays on during crank. And that way you can log fueling during crank. Jeremy, I do have some videos out there specifically on torque tuning. If you haven't watched them yet, go check them out. They might help you out. It is a tough thing to do. It's idle tuning on heavily modified Gen 5s are about the hardest thing to do. Daniel, I have not done any videos on Duramax tuning or diesel tuning at all. Casey Sire says 6.0 with BTR stage 2 turbo cam. What plug would you suggest without turbo installed? I mean, even without the turbo installed, Casey, you can probably get away with going 2 steps colder, knowing that you're going to install the turbo. Maybe 1 step colder. But the big issue is you don't need to really close the gap down on that until you get the turbo installed. Once you get the turbo installed, you're going to need to close the gap down. You got it cranked up a little bit too loud, 325. I am deaf, so I hear you. I hear you there, man. John of the Jungle says, I'm slowly working on designing a fuel injection setup for a 200cc cylinder, single cylinder, 2-stroke. Any suggestions you see him to base it off of? I mean, obviously, John, I would say a Mega Squirt. You could probably get a Mega Squirt for cheap. 92 LSC Kid. Yeah, I can do a video using the Blue Cat tuner. I'll do a video on trans shifts here soon. Denali Guy says on NA car mostly used for cruising and some road racing, Mass Air or SD. Mass Air, I mean both, but Mass Air primarily. Mass Airflow is just, it works better all around. Jeremy says, do I have to ramp the scale way up after idle? Showing like 920 foot-pounds at 182 and like 5,800. Yeah, I mean, you wanted to do a linear interpolation out of idle, so it is not just jumping up. So Base running airflow on a cam, Danny. I mean, you got to be able to read your AFR. That's what's going to determine your airflow, and you just have to get it set up. Dub Sanchez says, have any info on setting up a LIN bus bench setup for learning? Not necessarily a bench setup, Dub. I've done LIN bus stuff in the past, but I always just do it on vehicle, and it's just a lot of logging, and then I will go back and I use the Canny Logic stuff. I've talked about it on some of the videos. You can find it if you search Google for Canny Logic. In fact, I got the newest one, the Duo, that has 2 CAN bus, but even the base, the Canny 7, has 2 LIN bus channels on it. Rick Johnson says, help us understand the difference in graph Spark 40 versus Spark 10 in torque tuning. This is a hot topic of contention that has brought up a bunch of disinformation in the past. I will tell you how I approach it, Rick. It is not necessarily the correct way, but it has worked for me time and time again. So until somebody can tell me otherwise without trying to charge $400 for a video to explain stuff that makes absolutely no sense anyways, basically approach it as in that being the spark value that you are commanding that coincides with the rest of the information on that table, and so follow it down. So obviously Spark 40, you're going to be making more horsepower than Spark 10. S10, I have a lean spike going from lower RPM, low load to heavy load. It also has a stutter, and if I get further into it, an exhaust pops. Lean spike with an exhaust pop. That's generally backwards. Is there a possibility that you are going so rich that you are reading lean? Because that can happen. But generally on transition, you should be more likely to be going lean. S10. Send me a log. You're a patron. Send me a log so I can see it. Steve Van Hook says, have you noticed if the Holley system on the Caddy makes the car run better than stock ECU? No. And I'll tell you why, Steve, because it is a dual overhead cam with VVT. And so the Holley system that I have does not support 4 variable cams. So it's, variable cam can do a lot for a pushrod motor, but for a dual overhead car like that, it is very, very important to have cam control. And so having parked cams on it makes it a little bit doggy. But nothing that a lot of nitrous won't overcome. Might be looking at some options of doing cam control on there. But I'm not going to get too far into that tonight, Steve. Keep your eyes peeled. Jay, we're just giving away a merch pack tonight. Some decals. I don't think so, Beastie Boy. I've got enough projects without you dropping your truck off. Anthony, please go ahead and post down into the chat what you figured out on your dead cylinders. I know you told me, but other people who were here last week would be interested to hear what you found out. Nick says, on Gen 3 411, if everything in the system is working properly in closed loop, does the PCM use the VE table at all other than wide open? Yeah, it uses the VE table in transient. And then the majority of it is blended whenever you have speed density is blended between volumetric efficiency and wide open and mass airflow. Mass airflow is going to be whenever you really get into wide open throttle, you break through a threshold where the airflow is not going to be transient. And so mass airflow works really good at metering air at that point. Now, mass airflow struggles in transient fuel states. And so anytime if you're getting onto it or letting off of it, stuff like that, the VE table is there to give the transient fueling a heads up, kind of a predictive heads up, and saying, oh, we had a instant transient state that we need to do fueling for. The mass airflow cannot respond in time generally. Justin says, any suggestion on ignition coil upgrades for an 04 LQ4408 CINA? Honestly, Justin, I don't know. I'm not up to date on the ignition coil stuff out there. Somebody in the chat probably here can let you know. Yeah, as Tim. I'd be interested to see a log, see what it's doing, kind of right on that step. Let me know exactly where it's at. Denali, I figure that nitrous is probably the only way that we're going to make that XLR fast without the LS swap, which is going to happen. Oh man, Ryan from Nitrous Express is in here. Speak of the devil. What's going on, Ryan? You missed your shout out earlier. You are correct, Rick. The demonics still having trouble with scaling my injectors. Tried doubling stoic injectors in half, in IVT terms, in half. No, IVT, leave IVT at 1, demonic. Double stoic, injectors in half, leave IVT at 1 across the board. You don't want IVT making any adjustments. That's what you're probably having issues with. VJ says, Kyle's any tips to play with tune on a Gen 3 truck for lean crew? VJ, why do you want... Yeah, bump it out to 15.3 on your stoic table. Just bump it out to 15.3 and then make sure your PE comes on early so you don't go lean and smoke something. Wayne Ireland says, Cam with 108 lobe separation in an EFI engine, do I need to tune idle table to stop it from hunting? Yeah, and double check, Wayne, make sure that your timing gets bumped up in the idle area for that cam. You need to bump up your actual idle set point a little bit, but make sure that you are not commanding something like 10 degrees. You probably need to be in the 15 to 18 degrees on that cam as a starting point for idle spark. Try that out. That should help smooth it out, and then after that, you need to look at your idle airflow. What's going on, Darwin? How's everything down under, brother? Chris Leswinko, I hope I pronounced that right, Chris, says, what's the best way to create a startup tune for a brand new setup LS1 383 without hurting anything? So the best way is to go out there and grab a comparable tune for the ECM that you're using, Chris. Look at what the displacement injectors are. Update the injector tables to what you're running. Do the math showing you the difference between the injectors that were on the table and the injectors that you're running. You should be able to get a percentage saying that you are installing injectors that are flowing 40% more. But then look at the displacement difference between the 350 or the 327, whatever it is, to the 383. Calculate that percentage because that's how much more air in general you should be running, Chris. Use that to offset and bump up your volumetric efficiency table and your mass airflow curve to get you in the ballpark. That should get you in the area of being within about 10-15%, and that's good enough to start tuning. Then whenever you start tuning, look at where you're having to shift. If you're in start around idle, get it running, get it idle, keep it under 1500 RPMs, see if you have to shift it up, say 10% or down 5%, and then just kind of start applying that throughout the whole curve, the whole VE table. That'll get you there to the point where you can do standard tuning. Same ordeal with the spark. Grab spark for an LS1, standard LS1, pull about 4 degrees out of the high octane table, and that should be fine. As long as you're not bumping compression ratio, something crazy. What's going on, Miller 7? So Anthony says it was 2 coils that would give weak spark during idle, so it would test okay with the plug against the manifold, but not enough to create combustion and none during throttle. New set of coils fixed it. Awesome, brother. Yeah, demonic, report back. Let me know if it works out for you. But yeah, if you halved the voltage table, that would have thrown the whole thing off again. Hey, Dan Golf. For SD cold starts, is there an automatic tip adjustment? Yes, there is. There will be a table somewhere that is going to be temperature based and time generally. Look for that one. That's going to be the one that is an enrichment table that's going to be generally a multiplier to your fuel. And so you can play around with that based on if you need more or less fuel. Tomic, you going to the car show this weekend? Darwin, I would ask you if you're going to send me that Gen 4 6-liter for $1,000, but you know you're down under, so it probably costs too much. I'm just teasing you. Banker 099 says, how much nitrous are you going to throw at the XLR? We're going to start low, and we're going to keep on going until she goes. We have no plans on keeping this motor whatsoever. We're going to basically eventually turn this thing into scrap iron. But not a lot of guys throwing a lot of nitrous at North Star. So it's going to be a fun little project, and then we'll go from there. I think she'll do a 100 shot pretty easy. I think once we get past a 100 shot, it might be questionable, but we'll see what we can do at that point in time. Once again, guys, we're getting a lot of stuff spamming through here. So if I miss your question, by all means, after the stream, post it down in the comments. I will get back to you. Danny, good question. Will the narrow band and closed loop always try to achieve 1.0 or the commanded EQ leaner rich? Correct. As long as you're not in power enrichment, and it doesn't matter. Is going to try to achieve 1.0 on commanded EQ. You got to realize, though, whatever your stoic table is set to, that AFR is what it's actually trying to command. Sorry. So, if you have your stoic table set to something besides 14.7, it is assuming that that table, that fuel stoic ratio is 1.0 EQ. Now, generally that's correct. A lot of the times that's set to 14.7, so commanding 1 is correct on pump gas. Hey, John Doe, thank you for showing up, brother. Dude, seems legit. I've been pretty happy with the Terminator X, and it is very solid. It's very legit for a very simple to get up and running and kind of get dialed in. There's a lot of stuff it doesn't do that is possibly available on the Dominator, but for the cost of the Dominator, there's better alternatives out there. A lot of you can't do really custom math or custom maps even. It has the ability to do custom maps, but the output that it affects is basically you have to select from a drop down. So if you wanted to add flex fuel to the Terminator X, you can go in there and you can bring in things like your E85 content, yada yada yada. But the output, then you select from a drop down. Increased fuel rate or whatever, and it maps that to an increased fuel rate. So it's one of those things that it's got its weaknesses, but honestly, for the price, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better bill. Zero Factor X, you are correct. Pill it till you kill it. We're going to not purposely try to kill it through nitrous, though. Most likely, what's going to happen is the head gasket will let go on these. Rick's Performance is working on Flex Fuel 5.3 Gen 4 deleted all DoD ports disabled anyway, stopping ECM from trying to determine alcohol content. Was it 74%? Relearned it. This will never see E85. You can disable the flex fuel sensor through the tune, Rick, but it's odd that you're seeing 74% on there if you did not have E85 in it. VJ, if the little North Star holds up, I would be impressed. If I were to put wagers on what will break first on the Nitrous XLR, it'll probably be the transmission, to be honest with you, Ross. Yeah, exactly. Dirt floor knows. It's the 5L50 is probably... The fuel pump that I have in there is sufficient for 150 shot, Nick. The fuel pump in that is the same fuel pump that they ran in the XLR-V. So I'm not worried about the fuel pump, and I've got the XLR-V injectors in already. We're doing a dry shot on it, and we're going to use all the ECU stuff. The XLR tranny VJ is a one of a kind that was used on the XLR for a couple of years and the BMW X5 for a while. A variant of it was used on the Pontiac Solstice and the Saturn Sky, but that was the 5L40. John Doe says, you have any experience with tuning an LNF engine? Should be pretty similar to any other engine relying on torque management. Correct. Just picked up a Cobalt SS and want to try and switch over to E47. There's probably some guys in here that can tell you about that, John Doe, because I know there's some guys that are working on those platforms. I mean, I don't have any direct experience, but it's all the same, man. You're just dealing with less cylinders. Yeah, well, that is true, VJ. The head gaskets used to go without nitrous, but that's on the older ones. Seems legit. Your thoughts, HP tuners or Terminator X? Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Honestly, if you're trying to have the easiest thing, Terminator X. If you want to keep everything factory, HP tuners. Denali guy, you are correct. The XLR, the trans is in the rear. In fact, it has the same subframe as the C6 Corvette, same suspension as the C6 Corvette. The engine, torque tube, and trans are different. I haven't looked at the differential, but I'm guessing the differential is different. But a C6 Corvette drivetrain will drop right into an XLR. Hint, hint, that's probably what we'll end up doing. At least from the torque tube back. Yeah, Thomas Johnson's over here starting trash with the Horsepower Academy guys. Rick Johnson says, I've got a learning project for swapping, trying to adapt a 3.5 Honda to a sandrail. If I eliminate all but spark fuel air, will it confuse the ECU? Good chance it will. Especially if it is an ECU that had factory drive-by-wire on it, Rick, it will not work. You cannot remove drive-by-wire from a factory ECU that has drive-by-wire, or we'll throw it in limp mode. You will not get anything out of it. Danny Z, there's a good chance, yes, that your sensor either went bad or your connection went bad. Laconic Tom, I do not know what the next Project Country Club engine is going to be yet. It'll be LS based, though. Yeah, the virtual, Zeth's talking about the virtual stuff. They were still doing that. But you can go in and flatline your stoic table and it won't matter anyways what that's reading. Yeah, Rick, as I said, go into your stoic table and flatline that to pump gas and it won't matter what that reads. Because even if it's reading that, it's still, zero out all of your flex fuel tables, your flex fuel modifiers, so you're running off the base and you're not getting flex fuel modifiers, and then flatline your stoic table to 14.7. And Atomic Pump says, try and reset the sensor with the Tech 2. VJ, you act like I just got money shooting out my backside to go down and grab the Rex C6. Seems legit. As I said, the big thing is the Terminator X is great as long as you're not looking to incorporate a bunch of factory options. Nothing wrong with that, John. Terminator X has good turbo setup stuff, has good turbo control on it. I believe it has dome control even, so you can do some pretty cool stuff with turbo control, wastegate management, yada, yada, yada. There you go. Dirt Floor is telling you. He's running a Terminator on his. Holley system will not keep the cruise control if you're on a drive-by-wire. The cruise control on drive-by-wire is very that whole system is very, very communication based on different modules. So, John, I think it will do CO2. Zeph could probably answer that better, since I want to say that he's probably using it maybe for his turbo control. I don't know. Rocom Montana, how's your Tech 2 dongle still working for you? Great. I haven't had to use it in a while. I used it to clear some DTCs the other day on Project Country Club, but what's going on, Justin? Everybody tell Justin Kopchak there, 1004, hello. We're going to be featuring some of his very, very tricked out Hayabusas on the channel here soon if there's any motorcycle guys out there. Yeah, we'll definitely be featuring your Max ECU. I don't know if we'll be featuring mine or not. S10 issues. Gen 3 flex fuel drop down box is disabled. Does the box called default percentage, does it do anything? What should it? The fail high and the fail low frequency be set at? If it's disabled, it probably does not matter, S10 issues. Hey, be careful, TJ. ABT, brother. Josh Drobny says, I think I figured out how to extend the VVE tables, but can't figure out how to do the Spark tables. Whenever you right-click on the rows and go down to edit, does it allow you to edit the tables? Some it's not going to let you, Josh. And based on that, you may have to set your Spark table up for boost based off your last row of your Spark table. Somebody can probably correct me on that, but that is an issue on some of them. Nick says, on Gen 3 PCM after startup enrichment, what tables are used to determine idle fueling? AFR strictly math. RVE is, you got cut off there, but a lot of that's going to be VE and math because you're going to be in speed density, Nick, and so you'll have to have both dialed in. No, you're correct, Demonic. That's what I'm talking about. Put IVT to 1 all across on that. You don't want that affecting your fueling whatsoever. Anthony Arbino, can we talk about spark plug gaps? 12 to 15 pounds of boost for now. I would say you probably want to go at least to 0.25. There you go. Dirt Floor chimes in. Holley will do 3 or 4 port with compressed air, CO2 or dome, depending on if you have enough IOs available. Zero chiming in. S10, you have to find an ECM program that has it enabled from the factory. Good to know. Josh Drobny says, I will try that later on. How do I know which interval to choose for each step on the VVE? Base that on your max boost, Josh. That way you maintain the highest amount of resolution. So even if you have a 3-bar in there, but you're not going to exceed 2-bar, use the 2-bar default option. TJ says he's going to be at Cletus and Cars in Houston. I believe that's this weekend. He'll have his baby blue Goat Road Garage shirt. Go give him a high five if you see him. Yeah, Zero says he's at 0.025. That's what I've got the Super Auto at. I've been happy with that. But as Zess says, you can go down to 0.02 if needed, if you're still having issues. John, I'm sure it was. What's going on, Randy? Welcome back, brother. James Avery asked, does HB tuners work for hover rounds? Granny wants to put twins on it. You're probably going to need to go with an aftermarket ECU for the hover round. You going to be using electric turbos on that thing, James? You guys crack me up. Ryan, you still in here? Did you bow out? Right. What's next on the Tuning 101 series? Marl R7 asks. There's a lot of stuff right around the bend. There's a lot of stuff. I'll leave it at that for now. Just keep your eyes peeled. There's going to be some announcements coming out here soon. I think Ryan may have had to leave. Anthony says, I think we should peer pressure Kyle into some Tito's. We have not done an impromptu in so long, guys. If I'm feeling up to it, I will do my best. I promise. John Doe says, you excited for the new Freedom Factory Cletus is opening up? Going to fly down and check out the big opening in November if the funds are there. Dude, it's pretty exciting. In fact, John, I found myself looking at racetracks for sale on Racing Junk the other day. Not quite to that point yet. We're going to need probably 1.5 million or so. Once we hit the 1.5 million subscribers, maybe we can afford a racetrack. Oh, hey, by the way, we are going to pick the winner for the merch. Dude, VJ, knowing where it's at in Florida, I'm sure it was pricey. Marl 7. Maller 7. I say your name different every single time. Congratulations. You're getting a merch pack. Ah, Randy, you missed it. It closed already. Gio, you won a shirt last week. You're not getting a merch pack this week. Sorry, brother. Around the farm, didn't you win recently too? Is this stuff rigged? Yeah, Mallor7. Hit me up an email at info@goatropegarage.com with your address. I'll get it sent out. Yeah, I'm saying, did Around the Farm win last week? Do I need to go back and look it up? Whatever, Josh. I know you've won in the past. Okay, Around the Farm's never won. Okay, that's it for this week then. We'll do a shirt next week. We'll do another shirt next week. So if you won a shirt, you're not eligible, Gio. You can't win another shirt. RCWCK, what's it mean the map runs out of air during tune at 5,500 RPMs? Tuner said I need an LS3 map installed on my C6 LS2. Frequency cap, but RC, I'm not sure. Yes, I mean, it sounds like it ran out of resolution, but you wouldn't necessarily need a card map. But does the LS2 have the honeycomb map in it, not the card map? It has been so long since I have. That's right, Josh. You won one of the hats that you would sell for $10 on YouTube or on eBay right now. $1.2 million, James Avery says. Cletus's track was 1 point. That's custom. Our pocket change for old Cletus McFarland. Charles Weems says, are we ever going to get to see that blower on Project Country Club? Probably not, Charles. Yeah, man, that E40 ECM is such a weird oddball ECM. It wouldn't surprise me if it was still 1200. But that being said, RC, you could just put a bigger intake tube on and that would solve your problem. But maybe it's a honeycomb. That's a weird time, the LS2 stuff. So honestly, Charles, I do want to do the supercharger on that thing, but the cost is counterintuitive. What's going on, Jorge? The cost is counterintuitive for what we're going to do with that thing. So I don't know. Yeah, Zero's right, RC. Just do the card math. You can get them cheap. Chevy for Life, yours is labeled and going out tomorrow. Everybody that was due that did not get on the earlier shipment, going out tomorrow. Mark H, 19LT4, Pulleys, head cam, exhaust. You know the tune. Smart Daddy 85, not worth it. I would have to double check your duty cycle because E85, you may be stressed on fuel, Mark. God dang it. I need to get hats ordered. I will get some hats ordered, I promise. Yeah, I need to also figure out whenever we're going to end the Smoky Burnout contest. But since the weather, you did not win, Geo. You're not getting a merch pack. You've already got a t-shirt coming. I'm pretty happy with the Holley setup. Hillary, yeah, they will be flex fits. I got to find a good flex fit. I wish I could find who makes this one, because it's the most comfortable flex fit hat I've ever had. Was it worth the money? Yes. Dirt Floor, thank you for the Smoky Burnout. James Avery says, is it worth putting a Hayabusa motor in a smart car? It is worth putting a Hayabusa motor in anything. Charles, hit me up, man. I'll cut you a super good deal on it if you want to put it on your 07, brother. Seriously. Hey, Justin, what's going on? Yeah, I know. We need hats. It is on. Gio, don't cry. You got a free shirt last week. You can't be greedy. And I know for a fact that I sent out some decals to you this week. So if you haven't got them yet, they're on their way. Casey Syrick with a $20 Smoky Burnout. Whoa! Laconic Tom says, should we have different tunes for winter and summer? Well, Laconic Tom, it really depends on what you're trying to do. Not necessarily. I mean, if you still have the map on there, not at all, man. That thing works so good at determining the density of the air with the temperature stuff, man. Now, if you have a race-only SD setup, you might need to have a winter and summer tune on something like that. Chevy for Life. The Dominator for the expandability is not a bad idea if you have the cash up front. Jorge says, got a question. 1500cc snake eaters on Gen 3 super rich. Do widebands read lean? Yes. Widebands can read lean if it is extremely rich. Like super rich. Ross is taking a ride in a Tesla Goblin in a month. Woo! Yeah, if you can get a video of that, Ross, let us know and we'll share a link to it. You're welcome, Jerry. Glad to hear it, man. You are right, Zero. In Oklahoma, you do need different tunes for the start and end of the day. 70-degree swing. We'll see you, Nick. Have a good one, brother. Yeah, Charles, shoot me an email to the info at Goat Rope Garage one. Same ordeal for you guys that won tonight. Not you, Geo. James Avery says, what wideband do you use? Well, good question. I've got an AEM 300300 in the Super Auto. I've got an Innovate LC2 sitting on the shelf. And then I have the Holley Terminator built-in one in Project Country Club. At the end of the day, James, it's about what features do the controller have, because about all of them are using the same sensor itself. So I would highly suggest, I like the AEM unit mainly because the 300300 reads in Lambda and has serial out. So does the LC2. That's why I bought the LC2. Jerry Lyons says, how do I become a patron? Jerry, if you go to goatropegarage.com, there will be a link right at the top of the page for the Patreon. It'll take you straight to our page with a breakdown of the different tiers. We have somebody, whoa, Jeremy, big smoky burn out here. Stepping up to the plate. I got to take a second here and digest what just happened. Are you going to do a Gen 5 start of injection video? Jeremy, if you're throwing $50 smoky burnouts out there, I don't have much of a choice now, do I? Yeah, I'll do a Gen 5 start of injection video. It's not that complicated. It's more complicated than it seems. You just have to have an idea of the where you're at on the degrees, as far as, when the valves are open, valves are closed, how much you can advance based off of different cams, stuff like that. Chevy for Life, which wideband do you have? As I said, I'm not trying to not trying to take away from the idea of the pro feature set, but if that's your only option, do it. Hey, Wallace, have a good night, man. Appreciate it, brother. Not trying to say take away from the pro feature set, but it's so expensive and the feature set sucks still. I haven't followed up. Anybody correct me right now? Hey, Zeth, thanks as always, brother. Hey, throw your link out there before you leave, Zeth. But, I mean, for $250, it's not worth it just for getting your wideband in. So, man, I can't help you out with Toyotas. I am sorry. Okay, so Chevy for Life, you got the old one that does not have the serial out on it. Look into the, help me out, guys. What's the one that you can bring it back into? EGR, AC pressure. Yeah, either one, EGR or AC pressure. There's a lot of stuff out there specifically on that. The guy with the Toyota, I blocked him because he was asking for a cracked version of HP tuners, and so we're just not going to have people coming on here trying to find illegal software. Casey Cyrus says, have you seen the broom standing on social media? No, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Lowbuck says the trucks don't have the AC pressure, but EGR would still work. Yeah, Mallor7 says the new ABM with the CAN OBD2 connector is better in my opinion. It's great if you have a 2008 or later vehicle. Okay, I'll go Google standing brooms after this, and if it brings back some terrible stuff, like, I'll come back and give you all a piece of my mind. Chevy for life, take out one of your factory O2 sensors while you're doing the tuning. Then whenever you're done, because you're disabling them anyways. So whenever you're done, then you can put it back in. No, the CAN OBD2 does not require the Pro set. What you do is whenever you plug it in, you go and rescan your parameters, available parameters, and it will show up as a new parameter. Zero met Jeff Lutz today. How was it? Heard he's a pretty nice guy. Yeah, I'll look up broom standing. Lathan, I didn't even know you were here. RCWCK, good question. Do you tune with meth injection on or off, or what when? If you're going to run meth injection, tune it with it on like you're going to run it, because what you are essentially doing is you're adding fuel through an auxiliary injector. So you want to tune it just like normal, like everything's good, and because it will skew your fueling tables because of the additional fuel that you're adding that is not being added by the ECM. Yes, you're right, Mauer 7. There are some vehicles. Good example is my 2006 XLR is CAN bus, even though it is a pre-2008. But they only will support it from 2008 and on. So if you have a vehicle that's pre-2008 and it doesn't work and you contact AEM, they will not give you any love. Yeah, Chevy for life on the MPV i1, it would have been worth the extra cash to get the Pro. As S10 says, if you do pull a factory one, be careful where you're tied up. Just unhook it. Get it out of there. Yes, RCWCK, still 50-50 H2O and meth. I do windshield washer fluid, which is like 25, 30% meth maybe, and it is still going to bump your fueling up. I use it to Band-Aid the Silverado because I've ran out of injectors under boost. Jeremy says, having an aftermarket cam with the data card, wouldn't it be possible to dial in a very clean? You could, listen, Jeremy, dialing in the cam idle, it's not really going to matter about the card. That can get you ballpark, but you literally are just going to have to play along with it to find what it likes. Every different cam is going to like something different, different timing, different airflow adjustments. It is, that is one of the hardest things to dial in on a motor is cam. There are steps that you can go through, but even the steps out there aren't going to cover all the bases for what you need to do. There will be different things that you have to change on your setup, because if you change anything else outside of the can, different intake, different exhaust, all that stuff changes the dynamics of the way the air flows through the engine. Cams are just a pain. It just takes a while. Justin says, I asked you why you're answering the question, but according to my AFR, I made it pretty rich. When it came to a green light, it pulled 10 at wide open throttle at 1.6. Justin, you're going to have to elaborate. Not quite sure what you're saying. James Taylor, never give up on your MPV i1 Pro. That thing will be worth mint eventually. Have a good one, Matt, if you're still here. Mark says, larger cam fueling lobe should give me enough room to run E85. I said, man, I just have to. Duty was 4.5. Yeah, you might be getting close to the edge. You should be all right though if you're at 4.5. Matt says, isn't the side benefit of water meth the fact that it helps keep the valve clean on direct injection motor? Yes, it does that, and it also really cools down your intake charge. John of the Jungle, I run O'Reilly's. I buy it by the case. Jerry says, should I put my dry nitrous shot nozzle behind my meth injection nozzle or before the math? Generally on dry, you want to put it before the math so you see the reduced temperature to command more fuel from the math. It'll read denser air through the math if you're using a factory ECM, Jerry. It is 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to wrap up. Once again, if I did not get to your question, I apologize. We just got a lot of stuff. Normally, I'm asking for a question at the end of the night, but it is just, you guys are blasting it all out here. I appreciate all of the participation. Make sure and hit up the comments after I end the stream. If you want your questions answered, throw it down there. I will try to get to it. A lot of guys who are on the channel might be able to answer it. I apologize, but as I said, I've got to shut it down. Have a good night. Thank you to everybody for the smoky burnouts tonight. I appreciate all the support as always. Keep your eyes peeled. There's going to be some content coming out real soon that's going to be interesting. Got a pretty cool package coming in the mail. Excited. Got a lot of packages showing up. Some exciting stuff. So got some stuff coming from ADM Performance. Make sure and check those guys out. LSAconversion.com. You can find a link to them down in the description. And maybe go check out Nitrous Express and Snow Performance. Remember, everybody, ABT, always be tuning. And I'll talk to you guys soon.